Hey everyone, how's it going? Pawinning here and welcome back to my garage. So in today's video, I'm going to be going over every single specialty tool that I really needed and found very useful in completing my entire Turbo E36 build right behind me. Now the goal of this video is to pretty much give you guys a long list of any missing tools that you may need if you are a new E36 owner. So I'm not a professional by any means, nor am I an expert on the E36 platform. So if I'm missing any tools that you've utilized in your own personal projects on your own E36, please comment them below because I'd love to hear your feedback. So one more thing to note, I'm going to try my best to link almost every single part that I talk about today with a useful link to either buy it on Amazon or another proprietary site in order to get these tools the quickest for your own needs. Alright guys, so I apologize if this video is going to be a little bit boring, but I'm going to try my best to keep you guys entertained. Now I'm going to try to story tell the exact order of which I did the repairs on this E36 first, and then what tools I needed to do modifications and other maintenance procedures. So again, I didn't really exactly plan all of this exactly. This is just kind of something I thought would be useful for you guys. I have basic tools that I'm not going to go over all in detail, but I'm going to go over real quick. The ones that I found are an extension of those basic tools that are necessary. The next things that I'm going to talk about are the specialty tools that you need, stuff like very specific tools like a clutch alignment tool, for example. Then in addition to that, right behind me right here, I got a set of tools I'm going to be talking about that are going to make your life so much easier when working on these cars. Trust me, they might be a little bit more expensive, some of these, but it's worth every penny. Alright guys, so I hope you guys are excited because honestly this is going to take me down memory lane of all the mods and all the maintenance procedures I did on this car, so let's get to it. So before you guys even consider working on your E36, I highly recommend you guys buy the Haynes Manual for the E36 or a comparable book that honestly has a lot more information, which is the Bentley Manual. So when I was in middle school, my father bought these books just to do some basic things on the car before I actually got a crack at it, and honestly I didn't understand most of it at the time. So these two books contain so much rich information. You're going to get diagrams, full diagnostic procedures and maintenance procedures on almost every single component of the car, if not all of them, especially in the Bentley Manual. The Bentley Manual even has useful wiring diagrams that I have no idea how to read at times, but you can see how much I use this book in order to really learn a lot of the things that I chose to learn. I started off from square one. I didn't really know anything about mechanics, so the first thing I did was hit the books and tackle the forums. So the very first thing you're going to need is a very basic set of metric sockets. Now I recommend you guys get something that is for 1/4 inch or 3/8 inch, at the very least as wide as a size range for socket sizes as you can. In addition to that, you're going to need 1/2 inch sockets that are ranging from similar sizes all the way down to probably about, I want to say 10 millimeters all the way up to about 32 millimeters. Now you don't need all of them, but I know you need at least, I want to say 17 mil, 18 mil, 19 mil. I think 20 to 24 mil depending. I don't really remember exactly which ones I needed. So in addition to basic metric sizes, I also highly recommend you guys get a designated set of Torx bits, female and male, in addition to that with hex keys too. Alternatively, you can get Allen keys, but I found that if you have a designated set of hex adapters, Torx adapters, and female Torx adapters, your life is going to be a breeze working on this car. I can tell you right now that a bunch of the transmission bolts require Torx bits, and a bunch of the body panel bolts, for the fenders especially, require Torx bits, and other components, random ones here and there, like the clutch bolts that bolt around the actual pressure plate require hex bolts. Save yourself some agony and just get a socket instead of risking putting an Allen wrench at the wrong angle and stripping any bolts. So in addition to a basic metric set, I also recommend you guys get as many extensions as you can. I actually recommend you try to get as long as a 3/8 extension as you can, preferably honestly about 5 to 6 feet long, because you're going to need one eventually if you plan on taking apart your transmission. The top Torx bolts on the bell housing are hard to reach, and when you take apart the trans mounts, you're able to actually pull the transmission down, so a really long extension is very useful in getting into the top to crank off those Torx bolts. One of the first things you're probably going to see when you get a brand new E36 is eventually a check engine light. So what do you need? You're going to need some sort of code reader. This one is for an OBD1. It plugs right under the hood near the what would be the battery jump terminals. So for OBD2 cars, I believe the plug also can be done over there, but it can also be read underneath the footwell area if I'm remembering correctly. But anyways, these essentially give you guys diagnostic codes which you can reference with the supplied sheet for this part. So with the basic tools in mind, in addition to wrenches and stuff like that, I also recommend you guys get an 11mm flare nut wrench. You guys are really going to need this in order to tackle any brake jobs. When I first got the E36, it was in shambles. An 11mm flare nut wrench is the first tool that you're going to need in order to take apart those brake lines. In addition to that, I have a small pipe cutter tool right here. Now this tool you can essentially twist to adapt towards any circumference up to, I want to say this one goes up to 28mm, 3mm to 28mm. So essentially what you do with this tool is you're going to need to tighten it down on the actual brake line in question, a couple inches away from the actual brake or the leak. Tighten it down all the way, rotate a bunch, tighten a little bit more, rotate it a bunch, and eventually it will make a clean cut right into that brake hard line for a replacement piece. So after I got my brake line sorted in the E36, I went and started tackling the suspension system itself. So you're going to need, if you're not going with coilovers or if you're not going to do airbag suspension like I eventually did on my car and just are sticking with lowering springs, you're going to need a Mcpherson Strut spring compressor. Specifically, that word Mcpherson Strut is the essential part because you need one that is going to fit into those spring coils itself and then compress them reliably without flying around and like hurting yourself essentially. But anyways, you can get one of these from AutoZone. I believe you can just rent them. After completely disassembling the suspension and the brake system and pretty much just replacing all those components, I found that the next thing I needed to do was the cooling system. Now, there aren't really any specialty tools you really need, but the only one that is important to know is if you have a viscous fan, which is that big fan that you can spin by hand actually if the car's not running. But anyways, you're going to need this 32mm wrench right here, and the other side for this one specifically is a 36. I'll try to link something that's comparable to this one in the description below. But in addition to this wrench, you're going to need a water pump lock tool. Now this essentially grips onto the bolts on the water pump because the fan is actually bolted on reverse thread onto the actual stud that's sticking out from the front of it. So essentially you're going to put these two together and then you either squeeze or you pull, I forget which direction, but essentially that's how you take the fan off, is with these two tools, and the rest of it is pretty much a cakewalk. All the other things to take apart, just use basic tools for the hoses, the radiator. So the next thing I tackled in my car was the exhaust system. Now I pretty much decided to straight pipe the car and do away with the stock location of the O2 sensor. Now to remove the O2 sensor, you're going to need a O2 sensor socket. Now essentially it is open on one side so that you can get around the wiring and pivot around it and remove it easily. You pretty much bolt any breaker bar on this end right here and crank it loose. Alright guys, so let's start diving into the really good stuff. So essentially the next thing that I really did that was a massive project on the car was buy a spare motor for the turbo build and essentially start ripping that apart. So the very first thing you guys are going to need is a Vanos toolkit. Now this Vanos toolkit that I bought online comes with the cam lock tools that you're going to need to lock the cams in top dead center. Now I go over how to use this tool really quickly in the video that I'll link in the top corner right there actually. But essentially this one needs to sit flush on the cylinder head, and based on how the cams are oriented, you'll lock the timing in place so you'll have no worries without going off top dead center. Now in addition to that, to remove the actual Vanos unit from the actual cylinder head, you're going to need this Vanos sprocket tool. It locks onto one of the gears on the Vanos unit, and when you force it in one direction after loosening all the surrounding bolts holding it to the cylinder head, it will force the entire unit off the front of the motor, saving you a lot of time and effort. In addition to what you need for these tools, to prevent the entire rotating assembly from moving depending on how you're taking the engine apart, you're going to need a flywheel lock pin. Now this essentially fits into the stock flywheel. Once you rotate the top dead center, there's going to be a little free spot next to the bottom of the motor. Again, all this is explained in that same video that slides this pin in place, locking the entire rotating assembly of the engine, preventing you from really turning it off top dead center. So in addition to these tools, you're also going to need a designated socket to remove the head bolts. Now, it's just a regular Torx bit, but this one clearly is toleranced perfectly so that it will fit between the gaps between the cams if you're not removing the cams and just simply trying to pull the head off. But if you're removing cams and then just accessing the head bolts afterwards, you don't really need this tool. In addition to that, you're going to need basically any sort of small picks. I like using these picks when taking apart the actual gaskets and seals around the Vanos unit. In addition to that, these do come in handy when you're trying to fish for little washers and stuff underneath the cams or around the engine components that are sensitive and you don't want to drop them. Now, diving further into the engine, I found that when I was replacing all the seals and gaskets and all the little components inside the Vanos unit itself, to actually take apart the main bolt on the front of, I believe, the piston, you're going to need a clearanced 18mm socket right here. Traditionally, sockets have a little chamfer edge on the inside, but this one is shaved down flat so that it really mates well to the actual bolt that's securing all the internal bearing components for the actual Vanos piston assembly. So once you got the Vanos system back together and timed correctly, in order to really test the functionality and verify that it works, you're going to need what's called an air fitting adapter that essentially replaces the oil feed line that goes into the Vanos unit. So after you hook it up to the actual Vanos unit, you hook an air hose to it, apply about, I don't know, 15-20 psi, nothing too crazy because you are essentially replicating the oil pressure. And then afterwards, you jump the actual solenoid using battery power. Just be careful not to reverse the polarity or else you'll actually fry the unit. So this is great because you're going to be able to test the actual rotation and advancement of the Vanos unit itself to verify whether or not you have the proper timing. So there's one last thing about the Vanos that you may need in order to put it all together and time it correctly. You're going to need this tensioner tool that I'll put a picture of right here. Essentially, the part pretty much tenses up the entire timing chain during the reassembly and timing process. But you really don't need that. You can actually take the old tensioner apart and stuff a bunch of pennies in there, and essentially gaps it just like the actual tensioner tool would do anyways. So just save yourself some money. And then I think there's actually one video that actually describes that. My Beamer Space, he's a really useful guy in terms of figuring out how to take apart engines, but anyways, that's a different story. Alright, so after I got the engine put back together, the next thing I really had to deal with was the clutch. And now what you really need and what comes with most clutch kits are an alignment tool. Now, I don't remember which one's which, but essentially one of these is for an E30, I believe, and another one of these is for an E36. But a clutch alignment tool is essential to make sure that everything is lined up perfectly in the clutch system. So I think that's everything that I've used and I can remember when actually tackling all my E36 projects. It's not that much, really. It's just like the most expensive tool out of this is probably the Vanos tools. You're probably going to spend about $200 on this kit, to be honest. But anyways, let's move on to a set of tools right behind me that I've set aside. I bought all these tools as I needed them, but these tools pretty much made my life very, very easy when tackling a bunch of these projects. So the first thing I recommend you guys get is a 1/2-inch impact wrench. I can't tell you how few times I actually had to charge this. The first time I used this unit, I was able to take wheels off for an entire summer of all my friends' cars on one charge of this, and it lasted the entire summer. In addition to that, I also recommend you guys get a 3/8 electric wrench as well. You won't believe how fast this thing takes off bolts, and it actually can torque about 35 foot-pounds, so that's a plus. Regardless, the combination of these two electric tools will just speed up your entire process when working on a car. So get one for yourself now and save yourself a lot of time and frustration in the future. So next thing you're going to need, of course, is basic drills, but what's more useful with this drill is a right angle adapter. Now, I don't know if you guys have seen the actual bags installation video, but I first bought this tool when drilling the actual rear airbag locations to put in a nut cert. This tool will basically get into all the tight spaces that this actual drill won't. Now, of course, with the drill, I also recommend you guys get a designated Dremel and toolkit. It's going to save a lot of time and be able to have something small that can cut through metal like butter. Alright, now I can't tell you how many times I've also used this little thread pitch tool. Essentially, this tool measures the actual thread and pitch for a bolt. And if you're curious on how it matches up to a bolt that might be lying around in the garage if you needed a spare one, this is very useful to verify the actual size. Another thing that is very useful to have is a go-through socket set. This tool is very handy for removing the strut mounts because essentially if you don't have an impact wrench to blast that bolt off the top, you're going to need something that is go-through so you can insert an Allen key to the top of the strut so that you can remove the bolt securing the actual strut mount. And there's another miscellaneous item that you don't really need, but I also have a caliper set in order to get more precise measurements. This is not a fancy one, it's not an expensive one, but essentially I found some small uses for it here and there when I was adjusting camber on the actual airbag suspension for the actual top hats right here. Alright, so with any old car, you guys will definitely run into some old stubborn bolts eventually. Now, MAP gas isn't something you can typically buy online, but it is available at a local Home Depot or a Lowe's. Now, MAP gas has a higher operating temperature and more effectively transfers heat than propane itself, so it allows you to remove stubborn bolts more effectively. Now, this is my Everlast Tig Welder, which I purchased recently, and I have a setup with argon gas connected to the back. Now, this is a more expensive setup that you might not need, especially if you're starting out with an E36 project or any car project in general. So I bought a Tig Welder setup because I do plan on teaching myself how to TIG weld, and especially with the demands of more advanced projects like roll cages and chassis reinforcements, I thought a TIG welder was a valuable investment. There are a lot of welders out there on the market that don't require shielding gas, like flux core welders, for example. They're relatively cheap to purchase for about $100 or so, but I definitely recommend you guys invest a good amount of money into some basic safety gear like an auto dimming helmet. I also have a nice welding jacket right here as well, and then also leather gloves are a plus. Now, the last thing that I'm going to go over is a vacuum pump kit. It's a manual hand crank vacuum pump, but essentially this kit right here is the bee's knees when you're trying to either bleed your calipers or, more usefully, actually bleeding the actual lifters inside the actual cylinder head for this car. When you buy new lifters from the factory, they don't oftentimes come pre-filled with oil, so you really want to use this pump in order to really ensure that there are no air pockets or air bubbles inside your valve lifters when you install it back in the car, or else you're going to have a really nasty ticking sound. Alright, so I forgot one last tool that's in my room actually, but essentially, so there's another tool that you guys might find useful, and that is a bearing puller set. So I bought this kit in order to service the actual detent spring components for the ZF transmission that I got, but in addition to that, this is also useful in terms of taking apart the actual wheel hub bearings and also the pilot bearing of the engine. Alright guys, so there you have it. Thanks for sticking around if you guys made it this far. But essentially, I hope you guys enjoyed that summarization of all the tools that at least I can remember in terms of building this car up to where it is now. But if I forgot anything specific, or if I forgot anything drastic in terms of the tools you've used on your E36, please comment it below, as I appreciate all of your help. So I hope you guys found value in the content that I presented in this video, and if you did, don't forget to hit that like button, and also don't forget to follow me on social media. I have more up-to-date posts on all the projects and all the builds that I'm doing with all my cars, including the 318 Ti, which I haven't touched in ages. Didn't forget about that, you guys, if you're wondering. So I'll catch you guys in the next video where hopefully we'll be continuing to mod this car further. Have a good one, guys. Bye.